I like your story when those guys were following you and fucking with you, and you're like, "Hey, you want to come up to the dojo?"
Oh, that was hilarious. That was so dumb. You want
to get your ass whipped? Come on.
It was hilarious because they just kept saying that I needed to give them money, and then I said, "And then where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to go teach class."
Yeah.
You want to come up and watch?
Yeah, right. You want to come be that?
And like they're standing there in front of the Jae-Hun Kim Taekwondo Institute, and they're looking at me. They're like, "You're teaching?" I go, "Yeah." Yeah, I'm a black belt. I'm teaching class. I'll fucking kill you, man. Leave me alone.
You want a few broken
Don't
ribs?
Make me kill you.
Exactly.
It was so funny. It was like the least nervous I've ever been, like as a young man.
Yeah.
It was like the perfect, like it was like the whole reason why I got into fighting at all is because I was terrified of being bullied.
Yeah.
And so to have this moment happen while I'm walking on the street and these two guys start fucking with me, and I'm not rattled at all.
Yeah.
And then I get to that door. And I tell them.
I saw the video. I just laughed my ass off. That was awesome. So when you were doing, so you started off in MMA or you started off in jiu-jitsu.
I started off in Taekwondo.
Taekwondo.
Yeah. Well, I started off in karate first. Okay. I went to Esposito's a karate academy, which was in Newton, Massachusetts, where I lived.
Yeah.
But it was hard to get there. I didn't have a car, and it was like you had to take buses. It was a grind to get there, but. Boston was pretty easy. I just had to walk to the T, which was like I had to walk 1.5 miles or something like that.
Right.
And then I would get to the T, which was the train that would take me right into Kenmore Square, which is right where the school was.
Now,
so it was
from the time you
there.
started to the time you felt like you had some skills or a little bit of confidence, how long did that take? 6 months?
Well, I was obsessed. I mean, when I started, when I was 15, I was there every day.
Okay.
I mean, every day.
Yeah,
I didn't take any days off.
Right.
I was obsessed, and I became a black belt in 2 years.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah, I was teaching like almost right away, like right after. I think when I got my blue belt, I started teaching private lessons. Mm-hmm. Like for the new beginners, I teach them form and stances and how to get your hips into things. And, and I was just teaching them like basics.
Right.
And that helped me a lot because there's something about teaching that like really sort of accelerates your own learning curve.
Interesting.
And so I was obsessed with it. And I was competing already. I started competing like right away when I was white belt.
Sure, what, 16? 15? Okay.
15.
All right.
And so, they would take you to these tournaments. Like, so all you had to do is like be at the school and everybody would sort of carpool. And then when I was a kid, it was like they would kind of take care of me and bring me to these places.
Right.
And you're in this fucking gymnasium and there's this other dude across from you and you're about to try to kick each other unconscious. Like,
right.
This is wild.
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with it because it was so insane.
Yeah.
It was like to go from like regular life,
right.
Just being a kid. I like to draw. I was an artist.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm like traveling around the country,
right.
fighting.
Yeah.
It was so nerve wracking and so hard to do. It was so challenging. It was such a freak out to do it. And I became so obsessed with it.
Did you have an instructor that like really like invested into you?
Yes, yeah. I had several, but this guy Michael O'Malley in particular, and this guy Jae-Hun Kim, who is he's the head instructor of the institute, and he was like a very famous Taekwondo instructor. Like I got very, very lucky.
Wow.
When I went to that place in 80, whatever it was,
sure.
81 or 82. When I first went there, it was one of the best schools in the world.
Okay.
I had fortunately walked
in
that door. Just
random.
I could have walked into a bad karate school. I wouldn't have known the difference. I was 15. What the fuck would I know? But I happened to go. I walked up. I was actually leaving a baseball game, and I was going. Told the story. I'm sorry if people have heard it before, but I was going home, and there's a long line to get to the T. Because everybody was leaving Fenway Park. Yeah. And so we walked by the school, and I said, let's go and see what the fuck's going on up here. And we walked up the stairs, and as I was walking up the stairs, I kept hearing this sound, like whoop, whoop, whoop. And it was this guy, John Lee, who became a mentor of mine.
Okay.
And he was a national champion at the time, and he was training for the World Cup. And I think he was 27 or 28 years old. So he was in his absolute prime. And I got to see this guy kick the bag. And I couldn't believe it. It was the force that he was generating.
Well, that's you. That's you now. Like, I mean, I've seen videos. I haven't seen you train in person.
I learned
but
it
I'm like,
him.
it's like, one whack of your leg and you got some broken ribs.
Yeah, but I learned it from that guy. Wow. I mean, I learned it from, he most certainly helped me many, many, many times. But watching him, I learned it from. I mean, I learned that was possible. Like, I'd never known that a person could do that. Like, the amount of force. I was like, that is insane.